Okay, so yesterday was a very unusual thing in a number of ways, episode for chess. Basically, I normally do like a 3 to 4 hour session, but that turned into like a 14-hour episode, which I've done something similar to that, like where I go for 12 hours or whatever. Like the first 4 hours was like what I normally do with commentary and just normal stuff. But then after the 4 hours, I had to go do real life stuff because, not everybody's life revolves around chess the way that people expect it to, or just the way that the game works. So basically, the final 10 hours of that, it was muted, which I've never done that before, at least not for that long. Like maybe one game I'll finish if I'm in the middle of it and I have to mute or something, but I've never done it for any long period of time, and I don't really want to do it like that. The chess was allowed to speak for itself, I guess you could say, but that was kind of stupid. But what it showed is maybe at least I'll play a little bit better like that. I never like to use streaming or anything as an excuse because I've done so many good things over the years under the circumstance, so it's not a very good standard, but maybe my style has changed. I used to have the fume night standard, I'll call it now, even though that's like the callback moment on this channel, where I was doing it like the old way, where like I would be basically saying what I should do and then doing it. Not really even in chess, but just in general. Like, I should go here, I should do this, and then I would do it. So it's like giving yourself advice, coaching yourself, and following your own advice, instead of just going off and doing whatever random thing. And so the point is that I don't do that anymore. I kind of talk about random stuff, or I talk too much, but whatever. I'm not going to blame my commentary of all things, but somehow I was still listening to music the whole time too. So I was almost doing a twofold thing. Number one is I was playing for an obscenely long amount of time that I normally don't have, which was 14 hours in a day with little breaks here and there. So even doing real life stuff and working in the background, but like 14 hours. So I got to 12, which is at least better progress than what I was doing otherwise. Now we made the final push to 13, and this will decide my fate. And I only have next week to do it. But the point is that I was testing a few things. Would I play better when I'm not talking and muted? So evidently, yes, I did play at least a little better, if not much better. The second thing is just I played for an extremely long amount of time. So if you combine those two, that helped me obviously push over the top. I started at like 11:50, so I got to 12, so it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but just I was hard stuck around that 11:50 mark, so I guess that made the difference. So the only thing I'll say is that I'm not going to necessarily do that again. In a way, I should almost be allowed to do it like that, or I was even saying like I should be able to play off stream, not to get to new ratings that I haven't been to yet, although I was always 12. I was 12 at the beginning. When I came back, when I came out of the womb, I was always a 1200 player at least. But I just have to use my brain. The point is that I should almost be allowed to do it off stream. So I got as high as 1236 as part of this challenge and this experience. So what's the point in going back and forth? Like it's a valuable part of the experience, but I should be 1236 and then moving up. So at the very least, whenever I do weird stuff like that, which I hopefully won't have to do, whether I'll still say I can't do it off stream, but if I'm going to do something where it's like muted or weird like that, it's only to recover the rating that I've lost. I can't make new progress, so I couldn't get to 13 like that. And I was almost thinking of that. That's what I was trying to do yesterday. I got to like 12-13, but if I'd gotten to like 34 or 36 or something, I would have stopped then and said, okay, let's do the rest with a sense of honor and do it in normal commentary style. So I went on like an 8-game win streak, which is my longest, so clearly it helped my play. So that's all you have to do to be good at chess. You have to play for 14 hours a day for 20 years of your life, and you'll become a grandmaster. There you go. Just quit your job, don't do anything, just that. And then also don't be distracted, but that's not. I'm never going to use that. Promotion, Judith Polgar, don't mind that. But that's the whole irony of how she's appreciated, too. She's seen as, oh, she's the best female player, this and that. But she's one of the best young players too ever, right? She broke one of Bobby Fischer's records and all this kind of stuff. Youngest grandmaster ever. And again, that has nothing to do with being female. You could argue maybe there's some advantage in the system that way still, but at some point, if you're such a high rated player, you're playing people who are similarly rated anyway, so whether they're a man or a woman at that point doesn't matter. It matters at kind of the intermediate level, like you're 2000 and you get a title that you otherwise wouldn't get, right? Because it's a woman's only title. So that part, like the whole transgender argument with chess, I knew it was coming. I called this, I talked about it like a few months back even. I knew they were going to do something. And so my whole thing is like it's the perfect opportunity to show that chess is the ultimate meritocracy in the sense that it doesn't matter. You just play the game, so there should be no ban on it because you just play. And it's arguably an excuse, whatever, to remove some of the special titles for women and just say, look, women can be as good as men at chess, just it happens on an individual basis. I hate when they attribute. This is one of the big flaws of modern society and why people get offended by so many things. Something can happen, whether it's positive or negative, and they'll attribute it to some superficial factor, like an identity or whatever. Like, Magnus isn't good because, oh, he's this nationality or because he's a guy or something. He's good because he's Magnus. There's one Magnus in the world. It has nothing to do with anything else. So even with Anand or like some of these, there's a lot of talk now about Gukesh and Prague, right? Like, oh, wow, India's on the rise and this and that. It's not a function of them being Indian. Like, sure, you know, you can be proud of that, whatever. But I find that kind of strange. As individuals, they're very impressive. Not everybody from India is like that, and not everybody who's like that is from India. So it's just, to me, I've always wondered about why people do that. It's like an oversimplified way to look at it. That is one of the least important factors, at least objectively, in why they're good at chess, right? Like, chess is an objective game. It doesn't, aside from, you know, the Christian imagery, but whatever, for better or for worse. I'm in a way, I'm surprised considering how politically correct and everything has to be. Where's the representation for atheists? Get rid of the cross just because it might offend people who aren't religious or aren't Christian. Like, this is what we've come to. But the point, I'm looking at this like it's a puzzle. But yeah, that's my whole point, is just everybody should be allowed and just let the moves speak for themselves. There's never been any compelling evidence that that should matter. In fact, the arguments that people often make are something else, like, oh, there's some sort of harassment and things like this, which that's fair, but that has nothing to do still with the titles and things like that. We're just talking about like raw ratings measurements. Obviously, if something wrong happens like that, it should be addressed, but just in a pure sense. That's why Judith Polgar acts as like sort of both axioms. Like, well, she's the outlier, she's the exception, not everybody's like that, and even the best has never been to 2800, which, you know, a number of men have done, so therefore that means that they're worse. Or it means that, oh, if she can be 27, then you could be 28, you have no excuse, you can't say anything. So people will make it either which way, but it just sort of convinces me that, you know, on an individual basis, it's just like not everybody is capable of doing that, period. So she's better than the majority of male players ever to play. But again, unless you want to use this weird reductive mindset that you're making it about that, right? It doesn't have to have anything to do with it. So no, Gukesh and Prague, I just look at as great players. It doesn't matter that they're from India to me, but I get it. People will take pride. It's like with sports, you know, oh, you rep for your city that you live in. I get that, but okay, what the heck do I do here? Now, this is like a very high level serious game, but whenever it's correspondence, it might have a certain value that way. It's just like, oh, create the threat. You're creating a double threat. I like that I'm higher rated than everybody in at least one format, even though I don't play it, or that's why. Okay, simple take. We really get that outcome where we get to open the king pawns anymore. Like, everybody's too good for that. So here's the reality. I have to accept the fact that I'm legitimately a 1200 player. I'll finally say it like, this is my peak, and now we're pushing past our peak. But I don't really buy the rest of it. That, oh, I was at 1,000, I was at 11. That's all arbitrary because I was getting farmed by viewers at the beginning or something. Like, it doesn't really feel... And never mind the fact that it's not really that different, right? Like, how different is the 1200 than 1100? But this I can accept because I've seen Andre's 1500. I've seen like kind of what it takes. So it's not easy. But no, I mean, okay, I can say it at this point, the claim I said before. I was expecting it to be 15 or 18, where I said, anybody can do this if a clown like me can do it. So if you're not 1200, no offense, but anybody can get to 1200 by simply calculating and just playing the game. How much have I really learned? How much have I really studied? Basically nothing. So I can get to 1200 on chess.com, legitimate, non-provisional, over the course of hundreds of games, like 1,000 games or whatever. but you can do it just raw. Even at the beginning of the experience, I have tape to show it. So I don't know, that's the weirdest flex ever, but it's very okay because that's the only point I was trying to prove, but it doesn't hold as much weight when it's only 12. It should have been 15 or something. You should be able to do that just on raw. Just pay attention, just follow fundamental principles, just think about what you're doing. So now I'll do one of two things. Oh yeah, I was also trying to counteract, like, maybe I'm getting stream sniped. So there were a lot of experiments I was doing there. Just, if I play for 14 hours, will that actually help me? And it did. If I don't talk and just focus, will that help me? And it did. And if I don't say what I'm doing or thinking, then they won't be able to snipe me. And that clearly is a factor, which it might actually be. Surprisingly, but it's relative to the level that we're at. Like, you wouldn't think that would help, but it does, because we're both so bad that any little thought process can help. You could go there, and that could be very annoying and allow the pin, but I mean, I could take it. I'm trying to open up. Well, I won't say what I'm trying to do. It's one extreme or the other. Either I'll talk about random stuff that has nothing to do with it, something almost deliberately maybe, or just casually, whatever, like a just chatting stream. That's what chess should be as a category, if you were actually competent enough to play the game. The category holds a certain strength to me for that reason, because what ends up happening is, the simple fact that it was always like a go-to that you would be able to. He's not even 12. Like, what do you expect, dude? This is what you get. This is the difference between an 1100 player and a 1200 player. Or he's just trolling on purpose. I'll fall right into his trap. Or you got to be careful with people who do that, because he's doing some kind of GM God tier speedrun. So I expect my refund if I do lose after all this. But I don't care if you are a GM. I'm plus 14. I'll still beat you. Which isn't even that impressive, I guess, because he's playing with too much a sense of purpose here. That was a mistake. Doesn't matter, because I'm see how I'm playing though. I'm playing weird because he's whatever. I could not imagine that this would have any. You could be Magnus Carlsen right now. Like, what are you gonna do in this game? Unless you get like some sort of quick, cheap mating sequence, which that might be a win on the queen at least. Now you won't be able to push out right away, or he's just kind of clowning the game. Yeah, give me more opponents like that. This is what 11, 1200 should look like. And I won't stalemate. It feels kind of like BM to try to promote here, so you definitely don't need to. As long as the pawns can move, you don't even have to think about stalemate, so it's not much of an issue. Go here. And that sets up for a good mating threat. The pawn behind is still a factor. The pawns on the other side of the board are a factor. This should be... It's still not mate though, actually, because you can't go there. You gotta watch the pawns. This should be mate here for sure. I'm terrible at calculating mate, or rather I should say trying to calculate it, because I often just... Like, you're in a position like this, as long as you're not doing stalemate, that's the only mate you really have to worry about. Come on, dude. Why you gotta be like this? I don't even know what to do there. Like, just go here. Sure, have a way of making it annoying. See, did I see in my head that that's mate? No, I'm just giving checks. And you have a bunch of random checks and good things happen. It's like that. What's that? Yeah, 2000. But just have your opponent blunder every piece in a row on purpose, seemingly, after they get tilted or whatever, and then you're a 2000. Like, is that what a 2000 would do to me? Is that what it's saying? Like, oh, they would, we played literally 2600s who don't do that to me. You had a plus 14 advantage. They'll win like a piece, they'll win the game, but it's always like this phony sense of pride, like, oh, I'm going the distance against a high rated player because, I'm getting to the end game and they're only plus 2. Like, they're gonna win 100% of the time or draw at worst. But just, it's a moral victory to think, like, okay, at least I lasted. At least you're not losing in the opening. You're not losing in the middle game. You effectively are losing in the middle game. contest between two masters is decided instantly, like, you know, it's implied that you were throwing the game at that point and you're not going to come back from it. But basically, we have to rely on, yeah, I should maybe start playing late instead. You're playing against sleep deprived people or drunk people coming home, or playing in the car as their responsible friend drives them home. Of course, that's what everybody does. I like that something Botez said, like, oh, we would get people drunk and show off like how good we are at chess, and they'd be so amazed by it. Yeah, because you're only 2,000 FIDE or sub 2,000 FIDE, so they wouldn't be impressed otherwise. Like, oh, that's no big deal. You have to get them drunk first and combine the two. She didn't say it like that, but she was just saying, like, oh, people become so impressed, like, wow. As if you couldn't do that to them normally either, because most people aren't 2,000 FIDE players. Like, aren't I already better? Where does it show the percentile? I'm already better than 90%, 97% of the human population probably at chess. But it doesn't mean anything because, again, I would like to take that credit that I was always like that, because this has nothing to do with learning anything. I won't say that I haven't learned some basic things like how to counter certain openings and stuff, but I went in so raw, like just certain people could appreciate that. I think people who don't play chess professionally or super seriously, there's a certain enjoyment just in playing it without knowing anything, but it's kind of the worst game to do that with. Yeah, this is a trade-off that today will be shorter because you obviously, I went overboard yesterday, although that is something maybe I could do more often. It's just like I don't really want to, because that was stupid. Like, that's not the way that this is meant to go. It doesn't really disqualify the whole thing though, because again, we only made up for lost ground, and we also weren't allowed to, unless you what a 1200 really made of, because a lot of the people we've been facing, even though I am 12, are not like high in the 12s and stuff. It shouldn't be possible really for them to beat me though, is my feeling. And again, if this is what a 1200 looks like, then I'm very much happy with the outcome. I don't understand. We've had 2 games in a row. So let me get this straight. 1100 players blunder their queen once in 100 games. 1200 players blunder their queen twice in 2 games. So I can live with that metric. Makes perfect sense too. Like, this rating system is not in question at all. It's just perfect. Like, I get mad when things go well too, because it's like some sort of insecurity. Like, what is the nature of the process? Like, why? Because you can't rely on that. Now the next game they'll play like a god, or they get these lines in their head like, oh, this is a perfect opening play, but then it doesn't work because, you know, I do something unexpected that isn't based in theory. So the best way to counter theory is to not play theory and just do rapport random BS equivalent stuff. And what that basically means is that, you know, then they won't be able to you won't be playing into their theory. So don't do the thing that you know is objectively best, even if you do know it. Subvert it and then make them try to figure out some more murky position, which works pretty well, at least against better players. And it doesn't mean you're going to win, but you'll have a better chance than any other way, because, you know, you're playing somebody 500 points higher. You know you're not going to win anyway, but why would you try some theory-based thing that they're going to know better than you do? Or they'll know it as well as you do, even if, you know, you equalize. You both know it super well, but then their other skills are going to take over. They'll do something wild, and maybe you'll have a chance, which maybe sounds like a bad idea, but at least go a little bit unconventional. Now, you should be just full trade mindset, right? Because every trade is just leave it with the queens only, as if that isn't my mindset already anyway. Yeah, this isn't quite how it was going before, in the sense that whatever, you can't read into it too much, you can't get overconfident, you just have to do it for what it's worth. So if he takes, I could easily just take. Now the fact that I said, imagine that's how you know you've just fallen off in your garbage. You're getting paranoid about people sniping you at 1200 rating, getting heated at 1200. That's how you know it's just over. This is a tricky move, actually. But not really, because once you do this, I should be able to take whatever you take with anyway. If you take with the knight, I take. If you take with the bishop, I still take. Or now you're in just kind of no man's land anyway. So the biggest thing that you can improve over time to show off and impress people too is just the speed at which you do things. Oh, you can't even do that. Because you do it in such a way that... You do it in such a way that... There's some interesting threats later. You're doing the same thing maybe that other people can do, but just faster, so then it comes down to time. Which I think is one of the least rewarding, least important aspects of the game, but... Not entirely... Yeah, you still got to have this discipline, too. That's sometimes the most impressive thing about good chess players is like all those matchups where, oh my goodness, is Garry Kasparov going undefeated for 20 years or whatever crazy thing. But you would think he would get overconfident too and slip up and this and that. But somehow it all works out. So that you could take and then I would still be able to cover, actually. This seems a little bit too brazen for my taste, but you take the knight, but I can still take back. If you take the pawn here, you would fork and take the rook, but you would need a little bit more cover to do it. Yeah, like give them all the ideas. Something is just peculiar about this whole thing, like just weird. Now I'm desperately trying to trade, but they're doing a marvelous job at actually stopping me from doing that. It's actually insane. It's not like I need to do it, but it's unbelievable. Now, if I move this at any point, you can take there, which could be dangerous. It should not be this difficult to... Even if you were to take... I'm going to do something a little bit wild and unnecessary. And the reason why is because, you know, you feel like you can get away with it. See, I wouldn't even be able to take that necessarily. But then it maybe makes the next move obvious that I should almost just save my commentary for the end of the game, but this is a general standard. The other guy almost seemed like he was doing it on purpose, though. He could be like a speed runner, but he knows he's met his match, so he's just trying to save himself time. But I mean, why wouldn't you just even resign then if it's the case? Yeah, my theory is going to be proven right. It'll get easier as you get closer to 15 because there's more provisional people who just made their account. Whereas once you get around 9, 10, 11, not that I should have even been there, you'll end up in a position where basically... Oh, God. I don't know what's going on. So annoying, man. You'll end up in a position where basically you're so far from the provisional thing, but that you've been playing for actually a longer period of time. The 1,000 rated players are on average more experienced than 12s and 14s and 15s, maybe even. He's not letting me trade. Like, this guy, for whatever he blundered at the beginning, is a god at avoiding trades, which is actually a pretty good skill. Not only to show the discipline to do that, but also to basically, I don't know, just be able to do it in the first place. Like, there's a certain skill to it. You try to go here, but it's not going to trap it. Or, you know, sometimes I'll say something and think it's right, but no, now it actually is trapped. You fell into my master plan trap. I'm baiting you with my commentary. But I can still take that, can't I? Not like I couldn't be sure of it myself that you just... Nothing's really crazy under threat. You're still covering the pawn here. What would that allow you to do? I don't get it. If I take here, what does that let you do? Get attack there. I don't really see it. We're getting a good check threat as well. If you were to lose something like this, you should just delete your whole existence online, basically. But it's easy to get lax and just lazy, overconfident. That's what they really mean by when they say heavy lies the crown, because it means that, you know, you're sort of almost just competing against yourself. So there's no incentive behind it. We could take either one there. I mean, it's just a rough start for them. It doesn't mean that it would have gone this way otherwise. But these two were at least encouraging. And we played other 1200s that are nowhere near like this. So, very hard thing to judge, honestly. Anywhere he goes with that. But no, you got to give him credit that he avoided trades so well. Which in a position like that, down material, especially by so much, is like the only way you can play it. Yeah, that might have been my longest stream period since coming back, and just certainly longest chess stream and stuff like that. But yeah, a lot of my longest stuff has been that anyway. So not only do I do it twice a week and give it special treatment that way, because it's so goddamn time consuming, but I also do it in such a way that, you know, some of my longest streams are to do with that, which is kind of sad. I shouldn't be giving it that much special treatment, but that's just the nature of the game. So not only is it not a good innate test of intelligence, it's actually the opposite. Albert Einstein played and he wasn't, you know, he wasn't that good. He was like a 1200 player, because that's just at the beginning. He would still have to study for years and years. So it's such a borrowed knowledge experience that, sure, your intelligence and memory and things like that come into it, but it's not as big of a factor as maybe people would realize or think. Like the way it's treated is just like such an absolute. The reality is that it's not a good measure like that at all. You take this, I could have already just taken it. Only thing you have to worry about in a game like this is stalemate from the very beginning, really, because you almost don't want to take everything at some point. Just hard to tell sometimes how good or bad these people really are. Yeah, did I see it? I count the number of times I get mate without seeing it, basically every time. 92. 450. See, you can't feel too good about it there. The last game, at least, it said I played at a 2000 level. I don't even think they were necessarily that bad. I was even impressed by what they were doing. You're trying to tell me a 400 rated player would play at an 82 accuracy? Once again, not winning or losing to people who are the appropriate rating. This guy at least was. But again, they're just sort of blundering stuff. And that guy did like a sequence of blunders that almost seemed deliberate. Yeah, what is her record? She was like the youngest grandmaster ever, which seems weird actually to think about that. Something to do with Bobby Fischer's record. In 91, she achieved the title of grandmaster at the age of 15, 4 months, at the youngest to do so, period. Again, it's not women's GM, breaking the record held by Bobby Fischer. So that's what's so amazing about it. She's the youngest player ever to break and defeat a top 100 players list, ranking 55. Now, how did you jump up from what, over 100 to 55? Like, you would think, okay, you'd enter in at 98 and then slowly work your way up. You just leapfrogged it at the age of 12. That is very impressive. The discipline that this guy is the real goat of chess here. Behind every super grandmaster, behind every goat is a, how did I say it? Behind every goat is a 2000 FIDE parent, which I don't even know if Laszlo was that. He's not even rated anywhere. The best chess teacher ever. Yeah, he's unrated. What is the rating range of Laszlo Polzar's chess endgames book? Like he was 1800 or 3 child prodigies, which is, again, is basically impossible to do, and it's to prove it. I like how people would still try to fight that, though. That was the whole point. We are so similar, me and him. If in a different era, in a different lifetime, I would have been him, which means I still wouldn't have been a grandmaster, but I would have had 3 daughters who are. So who's the real victor in that one? Like, the point is that all the names are like, I know it's because of language barriers, but they almost exist to troll you. Like, you would think Judith more like Judith, or Zofia is Sophia, or what is that, Susan. Like, they're all just extrapolations on it. But no, we're both into psychology. We both love chess. So I pose the same experiment. Like, either you should just play it innately and not study, or if you do study, okay, fine, go all out, then study from age 5 for 10 hours a day and just go all into it, and then that's all it would theoretically take to reach your peak or whatever. So even in the worst case, you have a 2400 player who's the underachiever, right? So if your worst batting average is to get a 2450, who falls short of being a regular GM, which even she theoretically could have been, but she didn't do all the norms, I guess, then if that's the worst case scenario, that's still a pretty good test. Like, if that was my peak, I would have been fine with it, but it wouldn't have been. It'd be even higher if I had started that young, surely. You can always defer to that. So I don't like sometimes how people phrase it. Like, how can you, like, if you say something about the topic, right? You'll say something about the topic of chess, and then they'll say, oh, well, but you're not a grandmaster. You'll, like when Elon's doing it, oh, you know, he's salty. He could have been a grandmaster if he played, or he didn't do if he wasn't the world's richest person, and focusing on, you know, those things that actually matter. The thing is, does he want to put in the time? Like, at what point can you just have an opinion on something, but you don't want to put the time in, so therefore you can't disqualify somebody for simply not being so good at it? You don't need to be a GM to have an opinion or make a logical point. That's the whole objectivity that I always preach. So I almost don't want to jinx the good fortune here, but let's keep going. Yeah, so those 2 games don't really mean anything. The ratings don't count, so we have to treat every game like it's life or death, because it basically is now. It's gotten way down to the last minute. I always try to subvert that psychologically. Like, you still have a week left, but I had 2 months to do it, so now I have to treat it like this is the last day or something. I mean, as much as I play the King's Pawn opening, I hate it when people do it to me. It's like, I much prefer when they do Queen's Pawn, and then I can just ignore it and do like the King's Indian. But this is the sort of thing you got to learn. Like, follow the logical razors of chess. Like, oh, don't allow double stacked pawns, but it's okay to allow it here. So, like, there are no absolutes in chess because it's so reactive, basically. You could go here. That's a little bit annoying because it makes it difficult for him to castle for the time being. It also does develop this piece, but it underdevelops my other side. See, this is what the habit you got to break, too. It's like, don't look for all these cheap little cheeky, as I would always call them before somebody else, cheeky threats at the beginning. Like, it's not a good move. It doesn't matter. It just, you know, you're kind of just reaching for something that's not really there. And you got to always just, like, preempt some of these things. Those are 2 of my best tendencies lately that I've done, is raising the H and the A pawn to prevent the pin and to prevent the bishop, let's say, from getting trapped inside of there, which this isn't exactly the position where it would happen anyway. Like, for example, you could bait this, but not really. If the knight wasn't there, you could bait it in such a way that you would take, but would that even be worth it? It's like the 6 for 6 classic scenario. You could do this. Take. He would take, I would take, he would take, I would take, he can't take. This seems actually like a good move because, and I'm obviously infatuated with that particular idea, but again, I might overextend myself a little bit. This should at least allow you to undouble the pawn if he takes. If he doesn't take, then, well, it's not even gonna let me do what I was talking about, though. You know, there's a disincentive for him to take. He shouldn't take because you would undouble, assuming that even matters, really, but it's gonna be, his knight is almost trapped. Yeah, I officially protest that name of knight, and I just call them the horse. So much more intuitive. It makes more sense. It's what they actually are. You go here, would it be trapped? I mean, it couldn't be, because obviously it actually is, in the sense that, you know, you could cover it with the pawn, but other than that, I don't know what to even do with the dark square bishop. You'd like to put it here, but it doesn't really mesh with that move. Find a certain value maybe in doing this. I don't see what crazy threats he's really doing himself. Yeah, I've been embarrassed and shamed by this whole experience, and I'm still very surprised as I'm going through it. So sometimes moves like that can be exactly what I'm talking about. I get lax, or I get lazy, or something just goes wrong with me. Anybody can see certain things because it's just one move calculation. There's no excuse for like blundering your queen or things like that. So that was a horrible oversight. Can't really cover it here too well, or I guess you could. That was always my standard. Just like, don't lose anything easy. Just, you know, max out, whether calculation, improvisation. If you play at your max capacity there, then you deserve to study. But so many people don't do that because it wouldn't be as low as what you think. Where you're studying at 800, 900,000, like it's not. It really shouldn't come into play there yet. And it's kind of a broad thing to even generalize. Like, sure, everybody studies, but like when you say it, people think you mean like, oh, all day, every day, like a 2,000 plus player. But even like the basics of openings and stuff, I try to always resist that. Move it back. I'm just kind of gearing up to try to castle. This is going to be a fork, though. Yeah, is it really a surprise that the knight would cause me some kind of turmoil? Yeah, see, I just blundered a pawn there. But to me, that's as devastating as like the last people blundering a queen, because there's just no reason for it. Or rather, see, it would seem like he's made a mistake, but if you could push it out, it would be too multifaceted of a move, though. You would have to first push this out, then you would have to, whatever, just move the knight, then you can do whatever he wants with the pawn. But yeah, this whole scenario wouldn't even be happening, so it's going to take a lot to overcome that. Already playing at an objective disadvantage is black, which is something that people always find funny that you would bring up at this level, but it certainly doesn't hurt to be white. You can simply move it anywhere you want. Try not to move it into immediate threat, or you have to keep it there. I find that a little bit annoying. Of course, this is pinned to the king as well, but there's no reason why I couldn't just take. Like, this pawn shouldn't turn into too much of a problem for me, but this is just a very bad structure, clearly. What you're looking for here is just basic development, which I argue we did too late. Something along those lines to make my pawn structure even worse, but I'm going to have to deal with it because it's just not going to let these threats alone, I guess. Now, either trying to inch for a fork, or you're trying to take there. If I go back, if I go here or back, this is going to be the one that really requires the cover. It's just been too bad that this dark square bishop can't come out at all, ever. This would be of certain value too. That would effectively ruin the castle, at least. You can still save the thing, but could I move it in such a way to cover that? And I think the answer is no. See, all this is born of that one pawn mistake, though, arguably. What? That must have been from when I did the pawn. Yeah, you're so happy about it. Yeah, let's see you convert that one pawn advantage. Maybe I didn't want a kingside castle anyway, or it's gonna be a little bit tricky here. Yeah, 1200s don't blunder pawns. Meanwhile, 2 games in a row, they blunder queens. So to try to make it make sense, you go here and then just let him do what he's gonna do, I guess. Or it could be potentially worse than what I'm thinking. Okay, I mean, this is what one pawn does. You lose a pawn, and this is what happens. Like, okay. But I mean, it was easily preventable, obviously. Doesn't really change anything else, but I certainly didn't expect him to do that. Or now that obviously sets up for a fork, which I can see, but I guess I can't do anything about it. But you know what's interesting is that would sort of bait the same outcome, but it would be pinned down to it. Basically, if he was to take, I'm not really too sure, actually. It's so stupid. So none of these 3 games have been high quality games, even though I won 2. So see, that shows you my objectivity right there. Just nothing I can do. I mean, it's, oh wow, what a thing. I never knew he could do that. What a good player. Only -6. I've overcome worse against better. You're just gonna keep doing it. So stupid. I really can't do this though, in a broader sense. Just not, I don't have the right approach for it. I'm very inconsistent. I'm not really trying. $17.50, $11.50, so that continues the trend of that. But again, just don't blunder the pawn that I just can see if I have eyes. So I think chess players really assume too much of the game. If you actually care and you actually just look at what you're doing, anybody could be a super grandmaster. How about that? Over long enough times of studying. There's so many things that people just miss the inherent meaning. That doesn't mean that I had to get forked so badly and stuff there, but I'm trying to do sort of an active threat, and you never do that when you're at this level because you don't know how to do them in the first place. This is a pretty good standard to have. Like, even if you're bad, you can know that you're bad and account for the fact that you're bad instead of pretending like you're good and trying to go for stuff that you don't need to be going for. Go a little bit slower in the opening. That's the biggest actual adjustment that I can sometimes make, is just I'm the type of player who says that anyway, but try to take the opening slowly, especially when you don't know openings in the first place. Yeah, I think I debunked the whole, like, oh wow, chess has trillions of positions possible. Take any real-time game in existence and it has way more, because every second it has that many possibilities, let alone over time. So, like, what does that really mean? Now this, I don't even know, but like Counter-Strike is more complicated than chess, because in any given second, the players can be anywhere on the map. There's more positions on that map than there are the 8 squares in chess, and there's almost as many units, like the 5 units. So, like, It's such a stupid way that people try to glorify something in an antiquated measure, I guess. So this addresses the cover as well. This could be good regardless where you go. I should be able to try to double take that. He's gonna create some other crazy out of his mind threat though, I'm sure. And see, like, here's the thing. If you don't castle here, you basically just die. Like, it's just over. By not castling, I already lost the game. But somehow I don't expect him to be able to take advantage of that, but he blundered a pawn. Now that should determine the whole outcome of the game. Because there's nothing crazy I can see that he can do. It's just something else is gonna come out of this. Or wait. Now you could potentially have won the queen there. Or no, I have my dimensions all backwards. Like, by unleashing, he's gonna check me. Right now, that still doesn't mean it's over, and this could be a very bad move because this is typically not how you want to develop, because what this does is you can allow yourself to get pinned down pretty easily. Now you're threatening there, you're threatening there. The natural cover of the queen isn't correct, but this is actually okay. I mean, you blundered a pawn, which actually might be the correct move, but I'm getting nervous about this. You take a pawn, can't take a rook, can't do anything with the dark square bishop. If you can save something and attack at the same time, that's always a good idea. Yeah, I mean, look, if the worst you have to deal with here is just the fact that that might get pinned and taken, then it's not the end of the world, but it shouldn't even get pinned at this point. You can just move it right now, and then you should be in shape. And back off, go nice and slow, don't get overconfident. That has been a element because it's one of those weird fake humility things, like humble brag. I can say, oh, I'm so bad, but I still think I'm better than everybody I'm playing because they're only such and such rating, 11, 12. Which it might be true, but you still have to show it in a more active sense. I don't like where this is. I don't know where they're going or what they're doing. The thing with the light square bishop is just, you got to give it somewhere to go. Even though I'm +5, he's the one doing the attacking. But of course, because I'm black, because you always have to play defensively as black. Okay. Again, that's kind of taking one piece out of the game, or maybe I don't have to do it quite like that, but I don't know where exactly I would go from here either. If he double pushes, it's not a big deal. He'd have to single push, then double push. I don't like it, but maybe we can clear that out later somehow. But yeah, that could shrink my advantage to only +2. See, it's all about how you use the advantage, not anything else. That makes that very hard to actually cover, because you know, you could just, you're double covering it with the rook and the queen. Come into there and try to take. The act of which I could at least pay back with this. Let's see what he does. Okay, dude. At some point, you could just trade the light square bishop for the pawn if you think it's going to be that big of an issue. So there's going to be some sort of bait play, maybe with that later, but Thing is, I don't entirely know how to deal with this situation. I would love to just get rid of that, but I guess I can't. An annoying spot, to be sure. But again, you can outlast them just by the raw number of pieces, defensive structure that I'm trying to go for. You try to just bait out a trade here, but this is almost to my benefit to have that. So I don't know exactly why I would do that, but like this could be a very bad move. I don't know. Don't know what to do. That's the whole predicate of my style of play. Is like I don't know things to do, so I just let them try to decide instead. That wasn't what I was expecting him to do at all. Takes there, I could take back, so it still doesn't seem to do anything, but take. You'd be creating maybe a threat on there. Let's get rid of one of these because I don't know. I'll try to do this, but then if I was to take, he's gonna come up with some god level threat. Just wait. Like somehow he's gonna mate here. I don't know how. I would take it, then he's under threat. Like, how would you do it? How would you do it? I would take, you would take, but so what? Like, I can't resist the temptation to do it, but I can't imagine what the threat is. Come there, you're threatening, and then you're going to be threatening into that. But never mind the fact that, first of all, I can cover, and second of all, I can just, you know, I would have had this to cover as well. You simply can't do that. You'll come like this, though. So maybe that's the wrong play to make. What you should do is you should go here. That way that's covered no matter what. And the king has freedom to move. And the bishop can't move. Because if you go here, or you could go here. Because if you go here, then you take, but I take, or if you take, I could obviously take. +7, but I'm still scared for my life. This defines my style of play more than anything, but I sort of stand by it, but at some point you have to not let this happen all the time, or you can just be such a defensive ace and try to figure it out. He could double attack that, he could win it. I don't really care. Like, it's not a big deal. You could unleash, and then you're going to be guaranteed to at least have the trade, because no matter what he does, if he takes the bishop, I take. If he takes the, if not, I can take the other thing. See, the biggest mating threat here is not any of these other pieces. It could be this weird pawn, because, and I even have the chance to take it, or not yet, but it's just if it gets like that one square closer, it could be very difficult to deal with. Even under all these circumstances combined, it's just weird. That bishop move is kind of tricky. I'm glad I saw that. Now the act of taking this would not allow him seemingly to do anything at all, but somehow I'm still worried about it. His other rook is not in the game. I mean, that's cute and all, but I think at this point, to just go here maybe. Now it's covered, it's protecting, it's attacking, very dynamic move. There's no checks that you can give. Like, it seems like a good general idea here. Puts is really hurting. Just randomly. It must have been from all that talking I was doing yesterday. Oh wait, 10 hours of it was me just whatever, not even saying anything. You could double attack this, I guess, and it should be very hard for him to do anything about it. Or I'll attack again with the other thing, with the queen. Yeah, I have many names when it comes to chess. Nicknames, like it's time to start living up to them. So basically, Permadeath Petrosian, which I didn't even know really who Petrosian was at that point, or Permadeath Petrosian, the human calculator, which was obviously joking, but just based on my style of play and how much it depends on calculation, that could be a fair way to look at it. I mean, at some point, you're just going to have to trade, aren't you? Give it a check. There's simply not enough there for you, though. You'd win a dinky little pawn. Some of these advantages are so massive, though, too. They're messing up in kind of big ways, I guess. Like, he's going to get threefold repetition from doing that, which is just... I mean, I get sick of these people sometimes. Like, yeah, now I'm watching my time. Like, I've done a lot of unfair challenges and rigged games or whatever you want to call it, but there's just something about this that feels unsavory, unwholesome, and it's part of the time format. It's part of the degenerate behavior of people who do things that are... I don't care. I don't care. Or, well, I kind of care that way. I mean, I'm not happy with you, dude. I'm not happy. Like, you're gonna just really... It's really just not right to do this, man. Even though it's exactly the sort of thing I would do. No, that's it, dude. I'm not doing this. I don't like 10-minute games. They're not instructive. I don't care about the challenge. That's just not even a game. That's just not even a game of chess. Like, and yeah, if I wasn't on stream, I would have won it. I mean, this is just not what it's about. I can't even believe it. You know, kind of forget about time, because that's the right way to play in the sense. I probably should have still just done that, and I would have still been fine. I mean, it's just not... I don't know. People don't get it. There's no sense of honor in chess at all. That's why the top players only get draws, but that's just the natural nature and state of the game. Got to be faster. I won't even talk. Like, just forget. I'll only play chess on mute from now, which means I may as well just not even bother doing it. Like, it's not even right. Garbage game. Yeah, I guess I had more foresight as a kid than I realized. I understood what the game would be. If you want to get any better, you just have to study. You have to play it like all day, every day. Like, I knew that instinctively without even really knowing it. So I had a good reason to not play. It was justified. It was right. It was objectively sound and factually based. So I was just right. So why even bother trying to do this? You can't do it halfway. Like, what do you expect is going to happen? Even when I do this, like, it'll take another 100 years to get anywhere, so... Very, very disgusting behavior. This is not a position that we usually have. And at least some of those people blunder their queen, so it made it very, fair. You're winning some by technicality, you're losing some by technicality. You're not really having a quality gaming experience at any point because you're playing chess. And so that's your first mistake. This would end up becoming a problem too, so take. No wonder they have such big egos, because they never made any money and they never got anything for it. And you're studying like really, aren't you missing out on stuff in life then? It's kind of a hard philosophical question to answer. Like, you would basically sacrifice so much to be able to study and play so much. If you have a passion for it and you enjoy it, then that's fine, fair enough. But there's so many other more productive things you could be doing, unless you're like it's the game of kings, because you'd have to be a king to be able to play it or get good at it, to have that much time and whatever, freedom and not financial resources and stuff, restrictions. But the thing is that, oh, is he gonna do the cheeky thing? The thing is that basically you could be doing so many more productive things with your life. So I kind of question that in terms of the state. It's certainly not a good career path or anything like that. Just as far as how lucrative it is and stuff like that. What's weird is the best option here might not be to take. Somehow. I could take. Did a couple people playing miraculously to avoid trades, even the guy before that who lost. That was pretty impressive with how much he was able to subvert that. Yeah, that last guy represents something very much they have to get used to. At this very high competitive level, of course people are going to play like that because they're really playing for something, 1200 rating is a really meaningful, just very important intrinsic experience in life that you have to just really be proud of and just, wow. Now this could turn into a disaster in and of itself. He has sort of an optimal bishop pair positioning. It's just, we can see what happens with it. Anti-fried liver, but I always do that because I never fall for the fried liver, even though you argue we can't stop it a lot of the time. They can still do the 6-for-6 trade, knight, bishop to rook and pawn. Oh, that's pinned to the king in a spot that he could do like some sort of weird sack idea maybe with it. So it's a very strange thing. It is covered, but now I don't know exactly what to do with it. You can go like this, so that would sort of unpin it and pin the other one. Now you could move that. And I don't know exactly where I'm going with it. I don't know exactly what happened with the pawns here either. Where would this knight ideally like to go? Really nowhere good that it can go, I guess. Yeah, those would be the kind of games you have to see through if you're going to go the distance here, because you certainly have the ability to you know, you're winning, it's winnable. I just get tilted by the mere existence of what's happening there. But that's not really where I wanted to go. I don't know where I wanted to go. Be double attacking there, actually. Or he already is, or he's I don't know. My instinct is just move that. Hey Stars, how's it going? You're streaming too? Nice. So has a little double take. Some of these people are just too fast, but I guess that's what this format ultimately comes down to. Put any of these clowns in a 30-minute game and I'd beat them 100% of the time, which I think I kind of proved. How many of these people are 1700 classical on the chats? Probably nobody, because nobody plays it. Because it's a dead dead site, maybe dead format. Messed up my pawns quite a bit, but at least you can't pin anymore. In fact, arguably that's not such a bad structure, because you might think, oh, you know, it leaves the thing vulnerable, but how do you really get in there? This is like the bunker variation where the king, you would almost need another one there. Somehow just surround the king where you can't even move with your own pawns. This one is a little bit irritating. He's gonna keep putting pressure on there. I guess it's the sort of thing we're offering up. The trade there doesn't seem to be too bad. Can't really pin it down or do anything. That's the biggest thing I have to start watching too. So many of these games tilt me because it only comes down to time. There's no sense that they would have won. There's no sense that I couldn't have at least drawn them or something. But it could be that you don't even make a mistake because of time. You just don't have enough time to do what you're trying to do. This is the fun, instructive GM level play. Move pieces back and forth, give a bunch of random checks, don't actually do anything, and try to force threefold repetition. That is basically the game of chess, and it's very fun and very exciting. It's unironically true too. It's not even me being salty about the proposition, says the guy who's such a defensive player and doesn't actually try to do anything, but at least I know my limits. Take there, and he's gonna have some mate in one threat because of this, I'm sure. Oh, you can't hear? I'm not muted today. You should be able to hear. You got it on mute. Now here I can't take, so that is a little bit scary. Or maybe it's not. I'll just ignore it and take this instead. He destroys my little bunker formation and puts a very scary pawn in the midst there. But I just assume he won't do it. But even if I do assume that, it doesn't matter because I still won't necessarily be able to do anything about that. Or arguably that was the absolute wrong way to play that, because the right thing to do would have been to probably to you know, take with the pawn, so that would stay there and just be an anchor for threats later. Again, I would go for the crazy trade mentality, but it's very hard to even justify now going after pieces, because if you try to chase pawns or something with the queen, what ends up happening is you sort of feel like you're leaving your king too naked and too vulnerable. That is an interesting style of content. Looking at yesterday, like just stream all day every day and don't even do anything, because you basically get to some people do that, like they stream their life 24/7 and things like that. Yeah, so that went 100 to 0 very quickly. Thankfully he resigns, but you shouldn't have resigned. You should drag it out and piss me off and get me to mess up because of how they, because of time. Like, look at what I've done in the last 2 days. I have to stay up till midnight playing chess. I have to do a 14-hour stream. Like, what is this experience of low-rated gameplay? I don't get it. Hard to talk even because of that. I have like a really bad toothache. To try to impersonate the guy, that's almost how he talked. Very underrated performance. Gary Oldman as Mason Verger in Hannibal. For not only the way he talks, but his whole face and everything. I don't know how they did that makeup. That's where my title comes from, is I bet now you're wishing you'd fed the rest of me to the dogs. No, I prefer you just the way you are. I always use like some movie quotes or something weird. I like the Exorcist ones right around when that guy died as sort of a tribute. William Friedkin. I should maybe do a couple more. Some of them were pretty encouraging, only because this was the one because of time. This one was because I blundered a pawn and it turned into a whole kind of crazy thing. I wonder if it saves the chat that you saw there. Like, probably not. Good thing I have it all saved on video anyway. Let's make as much progress as I can. Aborted. I didn't even feel like I clicked anything after it aborted. Okay, this guy's much higher than even we're used to seeing, almost 13, so you can get a good example, I guess, of what that might look like. Can't get psyched out by these very highly skilled players. You got a good pawn structure going already as black, which is sort of unusual, but sort of bad development, but I could only punish that bad development. Hey stars, welcome back. Let's see, we go here. He can't pin it down, that's the important thing. But no, you could punish this lack of development by black. You will pay the price for your lack of development if you just were more of an attacking mindset. That's a very bad structure that he's done. But at least we get sort of a tempo lead with castling and everything. There's no need to castle if your opponent just doesn't do anything to attack you and relies on you to make mistakes, which is exactly outing my playstyle. But again, he wouldn't really know that I'm like that. But I guess you can kind of tell even by how I play it in the beginning. Or he still is going to end up castling, but you could move this away. You could do this. There'd be no way to trap the bishop or do anything crazy like that. You might raise the c5 pawn. Maybe not. Yeah, you can get your little bishop pair, double diagonal structure. That really is my whole philosophy too, is you always see attrition play a part, whether it be because of me, I'm losing on time or something, or you drag the game out long enough and somebody will blunder something. So it doesn't mean that you're actually outplaying them or doing well. You're just waiting like, oh, they're gonna mess up, or they're a bigger clown than I am. That's all the 99% of these games come down to. You can say that's true at every level, but at least the mistakes they make will be much more nuanced. Like, they're not just hanging a piece or something stupid like that. All these Indian players are going to be inspired now. They inspired a whole generation. Can you be mod? Sure, you could be. I don't really have any right now. But no, as soon as I add them, I could definitely make you one, sure. Just because there's nothing really for them to do. But yeah, once I get like a super active chat. Simply is one, but I guess he's never even here anymore anyway. Yeah, I haven't really messed with stuff like that too much, whether it be mods or even emotes. I had some from my old channel. I could be mod and moderate people. Yeah, actually, that's fine. Let me see how. I forget how you even do that. Yeah, if there were people to moderate, unfortunately, there's really not. Oh, yeah, it worked? Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, now there's nothing really for you to do because I guess if somebody spoils something, you can delete it. Like if they, but even like if they try to tell me moves, you don't have to do anything. It's just, I tend to not read it until the game's over anyway. That's probably the biggest spoilers we've seen so far. Just somehow, will be a good bot. Or yeah, simply got power hungry as soon as I gave it. It started banning people left and right. Who else wanted to be one? I can't remember. Okay, this is actually fine. That was just a free pawn. See, that's like one of those threats I do, like panic threat, or like you just want to get payback for what they just did to you. You made a mistake. Quite possible this will be very hard to cover. But at least if you're going to do it, you could bait it in for a trade, or, you could theoretically do this or this, but those both feel kind of awkward. This maybe actually isn't that bad, but these are the times where you kind of get yourself in trouble just trying to overdo it, overprotect something. There's no suitable structure that's ever going to make that viable. Right, you're not going to want to connect a pawn to it anyway. This C2 pawn is always like your best anchor. Even if you do get the V shape, it's still your anchor, because then you would have B3 and A4. I do end up in the hillbilly attack a lot, because that shows you how unsophisticated and offensively challenged I am. Okay, all I have to do is not lose this somehow, but it's almost not even worth it. He's only single attacking it, so it's covered. There's some way I can fork in a meaningful way. It's kind of a lazy threat that probably won't bear out too well, but it doesn't allow me to... It doesn't force me to do anything, like... I don't know. He certainly obviously is going to... Well, let's not see... Yeah, let's test that. I won't say what he should do. He should move the queen. He should totally move the queen. If he's sniping right now, like a 1288 would have to snipe a 1211 anyway. Just move the queen so you don't blunder the queen. That's how you gotta always think about threats in chess. Like, they gotta be as multifaceted as possible, because the first few layers of it won't work. Just, it's too complicated, too nuanced of a game for any of that to happen. Now, maybe the act of moving the queen would allow you to cover this a little better. That was at least a satisfying trade to do. double attacking there, like, I just don't like what's happening with this at all. Doesn't feel like a good thing to try to overcommit to covering it this much. And you have here sort of an octopus bishop in the sense that he can still try to trade with the knight, he can still try to trade with the bishop, but he can't push it out with a pawn at least. And it's arguably not even the best spot for it to be in because, well, it is still a pretty good spot. But I mean, bishops aren't exactly like knights where they just want to be up on the board as far as possible. You want to be in an even more open position than this. So like, what would be a better square? You can't really be that greedy with it, I guess. This would be the best square for it to be on. Ha ha ha. I saw this art on like YouTube. Somebody's posting images like shows the king and the queen like sitting having dinner and the table's all bloody or the board's all bloody with all the rest of the pieces. But that's not really a fair interpretation because the queen always goes out there with a sense of honor and tries to fight their own battles basically. You could go here instead because you're not really doing anything with that anyway, even though I was so excited about the octopus potential. Yeah, this one odd pawn out is probably going to be a big problem, but at least I'm up a pawn to make up for that. You could almost try to... How old am I? I'm 28. You could almost try to just reverse it and keep going, but I can't decide whether that's worth it or not. I am one of those complacent type of players who's just going to sit there and try to... this could mess me up badly. It's already under double threat, so it feels like... maybe it's somehow the right decision to make. I just can't deal with these advanced pawn structure ideas. It's just too much. Yeah, 28 and you just start playing chess, or I guess I was 27 maybe when I started. When did I start? At least on a regular basis. That would have been last year. Yeah, because I didn't really play much in 2021, so it would have been beginning of 2022. I'm 27 to 28, so it's like almost 2 years of regular play. And I won't even count it as an excuse that, oh, I didn't study or whatever, because that's by choice. Then this much time you should probably be like what Simply is, where he went from like 900, like where I was, or like a little bit worse than I was, to like 2000 almost. But clearly it's just all about studying. Don't play the game. Problem here is you're going to block your own diagonals pretty much no matter what you do, so there's a certain value to that. Pretty complicated position. Like, this guy is almost 1300. This is what we're going to be going up against, so you can't be intimidated or say, oh, he's too good or something. It should be perfectly fine. Just even time. I don't see what he's doing here. The threats that players like us make are so stupid because we're just sort of like grasping at straws. Or I love the people who sack pieces constantly. They're acting like they know what they're doing, or they somehow have a sense that maybe they've seen that before or they've studied it. But even if they have, they're not going to know. Like, you do something weird and you throw them off. Or see, when you take this long to think, it might mean that I have a winning tactic, even if I don't see it. I don't see anything here that's too crazy. So if he was just to move quickly, that would benefit him. Or he's coming up with some sort of winning crazy thing. But either way, you got to be on guard the next move and don't make it quickly unless you're sure, which you should never be too confident anyway. Could have just gone AFK. Maybe life is calling. Maybe he fell asleep. It's late at night. Although I don't know what time it would be in India. I guess they could have the flag there. It doesn't mean they live in India. It just means they want to represent it. Poor Nepo can't even rep his country because it has nothing to do with, when you conflate one thing about everything else. Like, yeah, really. Don't show China's flag because they had, they're a surveillance state that censors the internet and free speech. So how could you possibly represent China? It's because China is about more than just that. Just like how Russia is about more than just the current Ukraine invasion. So it's not fair to make it like that. Russia has such a great, rich history with chess that it's just not the way to go about it. I like this, but he's gonna bait me to try to fall asleep and just somehow take advantage. Right? Sometimes in a 30-minute game they would do that too. I did that actually once, but I didn't mean to do it. I had to go AFK legitimately for like 10 minutes, and in that time they AFK'd out, and then when I came back they flagged. Like basically it was my turn. I go from like 20 minutes to 10 minutes, and then they're like, oh, screw this guy, he's taking too long, he's a troll, right? He's just being salty or something. And then I come back and make a move, and then they never come back because they either fell asleep or gave up or just got sick of it. That's a good sort of psychological trick. Chess is the perfect game to do like that somehow. Like, oh, if you're semi-streaming at work, not that you necessarily should do that or whatever, but like if you're a little bit distracted here and there, if you play these longer formats, that's part of the reason why I liked it. But even just in and of itself, it's more instructive and stuff. You can go AFK for a minute, 2 minutes, and you can still play your best game for the most part, because you're not always going to use the full 30 minutes anyway. Or like Prague's and Magnus' second game was pretty short, so they were both draws, so Prague's holding his own. I don't even see what's crazy here. Like, I haven't trapped the bishop. I don't get it, but I'll take it. Is that now really a legit win? Like, I was at least in an okay spot, but I can't say for sure I would have won. I was even a little bit uncomfortable with the position. I love that once you get to a higher rating, because then people give you the benefit of the doubt. Like, oh, clearly they'd never make a mistake like such and such, so therefore they won't even try to do that or punish you for that. Sub only. I don't know how many subscribers I even have. Okay, that was a weird kind of win, but I can accept it. And like sometimes you gotta quit while you're ahead, so maybe I should just stop. Just looking at what there is. Okay. 16, you really outplayed your opponent in that one. You played a bit better. Like, yeah, really, what was the evaluation and what was the next move? Was the next move really something pivotal? It didn't feel like I really outplayed him at all. It's celebrating the fact that I won, but if the evaluation is only here, how did I really outplay them? It's still a draw. That's like the feeling of what it is to be Magnus Carlsen. Oh, you play so well, but when did you know it was a draw? Or what was the other line like? What do you want me to do, basically? Like, oh, it was a little messy game, but you have 99 accuracy and it's a perfect draw against an opponent who also has very high accuracy. So what do you expect to happen? You know, the problem is these mighty 1100s who have been so tough are not going to give me even that much rating anymore. So when I inevitably beat them, I don't know how much of that you can interact with when when you're not live. I think I was trying. Oh shit! I guess you could do this. I think I've tried to do that before, and a lot of stuff doesn't work. Or like I think the polls don't work. Kind of weird. Maybe you probably should be allowed to do that. Playing very disciplined kind of game. You move away the knight. I'm not entirely sure. See, this is kind of the structure you want, but now the knight can come in pretty comfortably. To raid people at the end of every stream? Yeah, I don't really know who to raid, but I was thinking about that. I feel like I wanted to wait till I had maybe more considerable of a, a higher number of people. But yeah, it is always a nice gesture to do. I guess you could just always do somebody random in the same category, maybe. Which I couldn't do with certain categories like PvZ heroes, because there won't be anybody else in there at all. That is such a funny category. It's such a balance of the passion between how much people like it and how few people actually play it or at least stream it. Now, this is a very odd bishop position that I'm not too happy with. I really don't know what to do with either bishop here. It's very weird. Pushing pawns all around, I'm okay with doing that. Very elevated structure. Kind of wondering if there's just some point where I maybe would be able to use this, but I feel like there wouldn't. Like, what if we put it here and bait the knight trade? Maybe that would be good. He's not really doing anything else anyway. If he doesn't do it, then look at how annoying it is. Like, I don't even know where to put it. We get 13 easy. Well, it hasn't been easy, but I will get it. It's been virtually impossible, in fact. Which really makes me question either something's wrong with the site or just my expectation is wrong. This is sort of an empty threat just because he doesn't have to. I'm not threatening anything with it. So when you put a knight or when you put a bishop like this for the knight to be taken, you know that you shouldn't take it if you're the person with the knight because you're practically begging for it. It allows me to undouble, so I can't really resist the notion there. Nothing really that either of my bishops are doing, so I'm not too happy about this. It'd be a weird position where you just want to play crazy with the pawns or do something else, but I don't have the will to really try that. Maybe try to get the queen in there. Pushing the pawns very passionately, but I don't feel too convinced by any sort of potential threat posed by them. I just have to look for threats with the light square bishop. You got to use like a scanning calculation method where like you just look over everything briefly, but you're not really I kind of linger on one piece too much, and that's where the tunnel vision tendency comes from, right? Like, oh, I see this one crazy threat that if you do this and this, which is maybe true even, but then you miss something else. Like you don't see some other answer they might have or some other threat they might have first. He's going to try to go here and then basically double take, which he can't even still do. Also opens up this though, so that's kind of good if he was thinking that I might take that otherwise. He's really messing around with these pawns a lot. He would take, I would take, and then he would be able to take. But the thing is, he would take, I would take, he would take. Thing is, I can't really take any of those, so this pawn structure is pretty important to preserve. And then it would be split so badly that I don't even know what I would do with this. You try to just cover that, I guess, with the queen itself. if I do this, then it sets up for something bad maybe the other way too. Like, you would just keep going maybe. The fact that the knight covers this is pretty irrelevant. Kind of an ugly spot I put myself in. And that as well. He was playing very confidently with the pawns. I should have been more careful. We had a very unique, seemingly strong structure, but I always get these pawns like one square shy of the king, or the king pawns or whatever, so then it ends up being... Okay, man. And then you're going to get punished and lose quite a bit from this, too. Kind of sad. Takes one mistake and then you kind of just give up. But I've had some crazy comebacks, too, where you really shouldn't give up like that. Not going to be any kind of forced mate or anything, though. At best, you could win the rooks, so then you equalize to a +1 only for him, but then look at his 3 connected pass pawns on the other side. It's very disturbing. One of those you can't judge just by strictly the evaluation. Wait. What is that? Like, how are these people so random with the levels that they play at? It almost makes you doubt what you're doing. Like, I didn't deserve to win that game at all, and I should probably just stop playing even. I kind of want to get to 1250, though, in the limited amount of time that I'm going to have. That... Very strange, but I must have been losing pretty terribly there. That was a relatively complicated sequence with the pawns, but it's not that hard to see if you just do it. That's the blunder, but up until there, what is the thing? He's actually not as much better as you would think. Even that much discrepancy you can always say is going to equalize to a draw. Although that one game it said like, oh, you really outplayed your opponent. But how did you outplay them if it's that close? Where I sometimes mess up, though, I push my luck and go too far along. Okay. Try to push as far as I can. My game is white, which means I'll clearly be the aggressor, because that never stops me. Now, this matchmaking is getting a little bit tense, because I'd rather it be a +8, +0, +8 type of spread. Because if you do it that way, then... You know, this makes you feel like, oh, you're the favorite and they're the underdog, but I always do better as the underdog. I fear no 1200, but this thing, this I fear. Or how does the quote go? But that thing, it scares me somehow. People get worse with higher rating. It makes perfect sense. PS5, yeah, I have a PS5 and an Xbox Series S, like not the better version, but that my friend just gave me for like $100 because he had an extra one or he didn't want it, but I barely kind of use them. It's like my Sunday series that I play, whatever. I was playing Anthem and then I'm playing Ark now, which aren't even console exclusives, but just to give them some purpose, I guess I do that. Yeah, PlayStation tends to have the better exclusives all the time. like whatever, The Last of Us, or even Demon Souls was pretty good. Demon Souls remake. That's the way that people try to justify console, that, oh, you know, it's like, it's good because of exclusives, but if they weren't exclusive, then Horizon Zero Dawn is best. Yeah, I haven't played that one. But I don't think that's an exclusive, is it? Oh, that'd be crazy if it was. I thought that was on everything, just normal. It is. Wow, okay. Sony Interactive Entertainment, I guess it makes sense if they developed it. You could go ahead and take there, but you don't have to take there, or you kind of do, because, yeah, okay, fine. Double stacks his pawn, so for him to walk into it so comfortably like that is interesting. Kind of give up the pawn to do something there. Let's just wait a second. I don't have to do anything. But yeah, imagine some of these stupid matchups in longer games. That's the reason why people don't like it either. You know, you're playing a 30-minute game just to gain 6 or whatever. It doesn't matter whether the matchup is easy. You want it kind of just a better gain overall. I don't know. I don't like where my bishop is, but I have no idea whatsoever where to put it. Weird, like there's nothing especially I can do with it. This will be an example of me trying to attack one of the rare cases that doesn't have any merit to it. Just like, you shouldn't try to do this. If only the positions were reversed, reverse the roles, and it would have actually been fine, because you get to basically take, and then he can't take back with the pawn. I don't see what that really does. This could be bad, though. You're ending up gonna trap your own queen. Now you almost can't go anywhere, but it doesn't really need to. The temptation to do that, but you can't because it'll get double taken. Nothing else you can attack the queen with, so it should be okay. All seems like empty threats. And that doesn't bother me at all because I expected him to do it anyway. I wouldn't really want him to take this, but I don't know how much good it's going to do me either. Like, if you want to do it, do it. But I can't let him do that, or I guess I could let him do it. He was suggesting rook from A to B1. Just attacking the pawn. Yeah, that could be good. Definitely enjoy getting all those trades, but he hasn't really slipped up or given me anything free. Normally when you do that same sequence, if you try to push the knight out like that, you end up losing that pawn because of the take and the check, but that queen was in an unusual position. sometimes you'll remember something, but you'll remember it wrong because there's some slight variation, and obviously of which is the whole point of chess, that there's a million variations of the same basic thing. I can barely talk, man. This fucking... The one day I didn't talk, I was fine, but now today my mouth is hurting so bad. I don't know what happened. It's not like it's from talking excessively yesterday. Maybe that'll subliminally make me play better because I can only talk about so much. But I really hate to blame streaming in any way. That shouldn't be part of it. That's the whole point of it, in fact, in a way. To show the most authentic nature of the experience that you can get. Now, I'm not winning by any meaningful way here, but a lot of people are disconnecting just anyway. Like, I'll take it, but it doesn't feel like I'm earning some of these. 97, 96, 2,000 players. But again, maybe you could say that's just because it's the opening or something. In the sense that, you know, any 1,000 rated player can play an opening like a grandmaster, let's say, because they study or whatever. But then again, not every opening, only certain ones would have that they've studied really well, or super common ones. Okay, at least this is a more even matchup. Or it'll be a +-8 thing. Now this I have studied a little bit, speaking of study, but see, now it's different already. Everything has changed. I'll just do it a totally different way and probably lose because of it. But that's kind of doing me a favor. He could have blocked with the pawn. If you take this, it doesn't concern me at all. Weird spot to put the knight, but I like it. So important for me to just do that early, then I don't have to worry about anything going forward. And then here's where the cheeky threats on the queen don't do me any justice. Can't move the rook, obviously. There's certain rules of every position that you should always have in your mind, but then something will pull the rug out from under you and you forget about it. Basically, a rule of all positions is just the knight sucks and you shouldn't use it or rely on it for anything ever. So that kind of goes without saying. Or a lot of people will say, oh, the knight's their favorite piece, or somehow they have some aesthetic preference for it because it's the one that stands out the most in terms of just the visual of it. Now, this is annoying because the knight doesn't have its normal spot to go to there. And so you're basically going to end up cock-blocking yourself the whole game with the whole existence of it. You don't want to keep going back and forth like there. And that you can't do. See, he's doing a good job sort of tempting me to try to do that. That'll block the only place it can go. Going to be very annoying no matter what the circumstance, so that's just... That's fine. Should really try to eat some of these up, I guess. I don't see what I have to lose by doing this. Keeps going, I could take, but then you would take and check. Quite frankly, he can't take here just because you're pinned down. So again, he's playing very aggressively, which is correct to do as white, I guess, but yeah, that's going to ruin the knight, but I mean, can you ruin something that's already the worst it can possibly be in its natural state? You still can't take the pawn. I don't like where my pawns exactly are that way, but this makes me a little bit nervous because I almost feel compelled to do that, but maybe I'll wait, which could be a big mistake. I think what's more important even than the position of this is don't open the H file to his rook, because that creates all kind of nasty threats as well. But this is great because you're guaranteeing the queen trade, so you already just are in good shape. This knight actually comes in handy a little bit now. At least it's more within my comfort zone. You can certainly take back there. Now we got to address this pawn. Either you can try to take it or just block it. Probably be a good idea. Careful about whatever weird misfit threats he has as a result of that trading sequence. It'd be very hard to even use this knight at all, though. He's looking to castle. Why don't we harass knights a little bit, or this could be a little bit tricky for him. I mean, doesn't this look like such a good threat just because? Probably not, but you could do an annoying move like this, because this would theoretically stop him from castling that way, right? Let's see. You wouldn't be able to cover like this. You wouldn't be able to stay in that diagonal, so that's not too meaningful. Because there wasn't much point in doing that. Quite frankly, I don't know exactly where to put this either. Or it could go that way, just get trapped by the... Okay. Now we gotta look for something, either a trade or, again, these trades are often not very well advised. This you gotta watch out for. The other knight is just not even existing here, so you'd have to be willing to move this at some point or take this, both of which are pretty hard to do. Maybe you play chess better in physical pain somehow. As if the mental agony of the experience isn't enough. Helps you not get distracted, I guess. That he's going to keep going and it could become a problem. If I go here, this could maybe be an issue too. It seems like maybe the right place for it. Cutting off kind of 3 of his diagonals though, so maybe not. Very constricted space. You get to 1300 and then drop down. You still complete the challenge. Or no, I have to be over it still, yeah, I would say. Doesn't mean I can't fall under it after, but just I should always be above it, yeah. This is annoying, and there's not much I can do about it, so it's gonna be pretty tricky. Maybe. I don't know. Like, how do I play after this? Yeah, we could do maybe a short one, not like a full 10-minute game. This guy is so annoying. All just to do with the knight. Now, I have to take, I think, just with the simple logic of whatever he's doing. You would think with all these pieces nearby, it shouldn't be that hard to do this, but actually, it's going to be impossible because somehow can't really do the double stack or anything. Covered by the knight. I almost feel like I have to do this, as weird as it seems. If he takes, I certainly can't take anyway, but the whole pin idea doesn't work as much. Hit 2k channel points. Nice, congrats. Unfortunately, I don't have too many great rewards for the channel points, just they're pretty cheap, at least. You can vote for Horizon Zero Dawn for one of my next hard mode series, but I think Paper Mario's already kind of running away with it, so. Oh my god, why is this so difficult? I don't see anything the knight can do immediately. Try and back rank. I wish I could, but might take a while. Wait, can I just finally make a room for this stupid thing? For the knight. I'm doing so much to acquiesce for the knight. This is why you tried to trade them basically earlier. Can't take it. At the very least, you can try to trade this now, or try to attack the rook. I'm very low on time once again. I don't know how meaningful you should look at these rating differences as even being. It's very strange. The king can't really move anywhere. You could certainly try to keep harassing the knight. It might not be a good idea in the long run. Also block the bishop's diagonal going towards me. It's also past pawn, so that's the difference in the game potentially, is just not only are you up a pawn, but it's a passed pawn. But that's very hard to promote on its own. I hear you almost might want to resist the trade, or it's actually impossible to do anything there because it really, the king is just in a very unpleasant spot right now, to say the least. You could do it, but then he's going to create some sort of double stack that could be problematic. Might be the best option, or no, wait, it still doesn't. Whatever. 1 minute left anyway. This is so stupid. Somehow I thought the knight would be covering that same thing. What a nightmare of a game. Like, just absolutely. If I could have deleted this piece from the board, I probably would have been better off, honestly. It was getting in the way. It was just stuck there. You just don't need it. You can almost take it with the knight now instead, but... Still only a +1. I still do have that passed pawn, but it's not going to be particularly valuable, I don't think. You could turn it into an octopus knight with this. That could be something. You can check there. Okay. Either way, you'll get hexagon knight, octopus knight, something, which can certainly be valuable. If the time was always reversed, I almost shouldn't trade this. You should try to trade the bishops for each other, but then exploit the knight's capability to maybe be useful here, even in an open position. You could try to trade. I don't know if that helps you too much. Now I'm the one who's low on material, so I'm almost the one who should be trying to trade. You create some god tier GM level escort for this that might help you out. Just think fast. Be very reactive to what he's doing, I guess. King can sometimes be a good asset here too, for sure. If it comes down to a pass pawn, that would be really remarkable, but it's at least a little ways up the board. Gonna try to attack the stuff on the back rank itself, I guess. This next square becomes very hard to cover, I guess. You can try to eat up those instead, which I shouldn't try to give up too easily. You could say just ignore it and go for the push, but I can deal with both with 24 seconds left. I kind of have a general idea of how I want to do this, but now I'm going to do exactly the thing I just said I shouldn't do. You have a certain amount of cover going towards this. Might just try to sack for it. Or, I mean, at least if you get him to sack for it, that's the whole point. But by then, maybe my pawns would be so ruined it would be difficult. So you're already at that stage where this could be very good. Interesting to see what happens next. But again, I don't have time. I can't think. You really think I can do it? 10 seconds left, bro. So idiotic that it's going to come down to that. Like, really? Is this really the kind of game you want to play? Just give a whole bunch of checks. I don't care. Okay, I can't do it, man. Whatever. All right, let's play one. Basically, that's maybe my biggest weakness is speed, but I think I even showed part of why that was. We're both pretty low in here, at least compared to our other ratings. Could harass the knight with that. What an artificial, stupid element of the game, though, because like none of these games I'm actually losing, but I guess I had my fun with the. I had my fun with this stupid little classical for enough, I guess. So. Done a lot of queen blunders today, maybe that I didn't expect to happen either. Some of these were gifted to me a bit. Two knights variation, knight variation. Take there, get rid of this maybe. This is kind of interesting because it's not really pinning into anything, but it's allowing you to basically. Oh god. Compelled to trade, and maybe that's what he's just so eager to prevent. Okay. I doubt this would actually work, though. Surely he'll have some other answer. Or even that's an answer in and of itself. Or he's gonna have something better. Now, maybe there is some crazy thing where you win here, but it's not super clear. Like, it'll take a few moves, and maybe I wouldn't even see it myself. Or he'll just beat me to it. This is never as easy as it looks. Just attacking in general. Sometimes you have to keep doing that, just push and press the same threat over and over and beat it like a dead horse, basically. You're double tanking the knight too, for what it's worth. Oh, whoops. Okay, that's typically actually what we've seen today, though. That's all you have to do to 12, 1300. Just hope that half the games they'll blunder their queen, and then the other half, good game. Oh, I didn't like our accuracy on either one of us. 250 versus 600 quality game. Although I guess it is faster paced. Okay, see you tomorrow.